These are the kind of recipes and cooking techniques that have taken me from being someone who thought a meal wasn't complete if it didn't contain meat, fish, or eggs, to someone who eats tofu at least twice a day. And loves it, most importantly. For the shredded Mexican tofu, we're going to be using extra firm tofu. If you can't get extra firm, then just use firm and make sure to press it well. So instead of grating this tofu, I'm actually going to slice it into really thin strips. So start by slicing your tofu into these nice thin, about 2 to 3 millimeters thick pieces. The reason I'm not grating it is I find it can sort of dry out and become a bit too crumbly for my liking. Whereas with this method, you can get it really nice and crispy, but it's still got a good bit of texture and sort of juiciness in it. And then once you've got your slices, we're going to slice them into really thin strips. Once again, about 2 to 3 millimeters thin, almost like a sort of thick spaghetti. Now that we've got these thin strips, I'm going to just cut them into slightly smaller pieces. Very roughly, I like to do this sort of randomly, so you get sort of different textures in there. And this is what we want it to look like once we're finished. Then just get yourself a tea towel and we're going to dry out this tofu a little bit. I'll just fold this over and give it a quick rub, being gentle not to break it up too much. And don't worry about getting it completely dry. We just want to get some of the moisture off the surface. And then just get your tofu into a large bowl. And then to the tofu, we're going to add in some oil, just about a tablespoon. And then to start off, all we're adding is corn flour, no seasonings. And then just give it a mix. I like to fry the tofu first without any seasonings, so we can get it really nice and crispy. And then we can add in our spices and herbs without them burning. I always keep a tea towel attached to my side just for quickly drying my hands while I'm cooking. A little chefy tip. We're going to make a quick smoky sauce, or glaze you could call it. Here I've got some chipotle that I've just frozen as I wasn't really getting through it quick enough and it was going to go off. So I'm just going to take about this much out for our sauce. It's really spicy, so I don't need too much. Or at least it's spicy for me, it may not be for you. So I'm just going to quickly chop this up. Nice and fine. First into strips and then into a sort of paste. Just use the back of my knife here to make a sort of paste out of this chipotle. And then I'll just add that into a bowl. And then to the chipotle, we're going to add some smoked paprika for that lovely smoky sort of roast pepper flavor. Next up, some granulated garlic. I much prefer the granulated over the powdered garlic as it tends to not burn as easily. Also going in with some granulated onion. Some lovely earthy and sweet cumin, citrusy ground coriander, and some lovely floral and sort of sweet oregano. Next go in about a tablespoon of tomato puree, soy sauce for a nice bit of salty umami flavor. And then for acidity, I'm using a splash of sherry vinegar. It's really nice and sweet and sort of not too overpowering. And it works really well with these sort of smoky, tomatoey flavors. Just add a splash of water to thin it out slightly. Also going to add a good crack of black pepper. And then just whisk to combine to create that lovely smoky sauce ready for the tofu. I want this pouring consistency, so I'm going to add, just add more water until you reach that sort of consistency. This smells absolutely delicious. Okay, that's good to go. Okay, make sure you've got a really nice hot pan. Then go in with an oil of your choice, or no oil if that's your style. I'm just using rapeseed oil here. Leave that for about 10 seconds to get really nice and hot, and then go in with your tofu. I'm using a stainless steel pan here, so the key is to not move the tofu, let it develop a crust, and then we'll be able to remove it from the bottom, hopefully. Okay, it's been a couple minutes. I'm going to have a go at scraping up some of this tofu. Should be starting to brown nicely. Yeah, that's looking good. Don't worry if some of it does stick a little. And then just spread it out again, and we'll leave it for another couple minutes before we turn it again. Okay, this tofu is coming along nicely. It's had around maybe 10 to 12 minutes, and it's getting lovely and golden and crispy all over. Okay, I'm happy with this. It's crispy and golden, but not completely dried out. I've turned the heat right down to the lowest setting, and we'll just give it a couple minutes to cool down a bit before we add in those seasonings. I'm just going to start with half to start off with and see how it tastes. Okay, my pan was still fairly hot, maybe a little bit hotter than I would have liked, but I think half the seasoning mix is actually going to be plenty. And it looks really good. I much prefer this method of preparing the tofu. It just has so much more texture than grated or crumbled even. Really nice. Me and Poppy absolutely love our early morning walks. It's about 5 AM and it's just us, the sounds of the birds, and yeah, it's just so peaceful. I love getting up before anyone else has got up, and it's just you and your thoughts. Really lovely. Ready? She loves anything to do with water, and sticks actually. We also get to see lots of cute little bunnies. And just look how cute these little ducklings are. I'm going to show you how to turn this tofu into a full meal. So we're going to prepare a little bit of rice to go with it. A small pan, I'm just going to toast off maybe a teaspoon of cumin seeds. And then once they release their aroma and start to sort of crackle and pop, add in your rinsed basmati rice. This is just white rice I'm using. And I like to lightly toast the rice in that lovely cumin spiced oil. Just go in with a small pinch of salt. And then for the water, I do 1 part rice to 1.5 parts water. And that's just cold water. Bring that to a simmer now. And then once that's bubbling, turn it down to the lowest heat, pop a lid on top, and I'll just let that cook for 10, maybe 12 minutes until all the water is evaporated. Okay, I've had an idea for the leftover smoky sauce. We're going to make some sort of corn smoky riblets. So all we're going to do, I've got some corn on the cob here, and we're just going to cut it in half. Now you're going to need a really sharp knife for this, as cutting through corn is no joke. If you're not comfortable doing this, you could just roast the corn and then brush the sauce on afterwards. Once the corn is in half, we're going to cut these into 3 pieces. I like to put my hand over the knife so that the fingers are completely out of the way. You'll have about 2 to 3 lines of corn on each stick. Take your time here, it can be quite difficult to cut through the core. You may find it easier to do it with the corn standing up, and just sort of rock your knife down the corn, like so. Okay, the rice I believe is done. Just have a little peek in. Yep, all the water is absorbed. So I'm going to leave the lid on now and let that steam and finish cooking. Okay, so I put my corn sticks into a bowl, and I'm just going to add on that leftover smoky sauce. Also going in with some oil, about a tablespoon. There's not loads of the sauce here, so I'm going to add an extra pinch of salt and also some extra black pepper. And then using my hands, I'm just going to gently toss the corn in the sauce and the oil. Don't worry if some break apart, it's absolutely fine. And then I'm going to pop these into my air fryer, spread them out nice and evenly with the corn facing up. I haven't cooked these in a while, but I'm thinking around 170 degrees Celsius for 15 to 20 minutes, and I'll toss them halfway through. Okay, I've left this to steam for about 10 minutes, and now I'm just going to fluff it up with a fork. Lovely cumin infused rice. Beautiful, smells incredible. Let's see if I can remember how to make an avocado rose. So I believe we just do thin strips lengthways. Just sort of drag the tip of your knife through the avocado. It's been a while since I've done one of these. And this avocado is might be too ripe. We'll see how it goes. And then we're just gonna sort of gently shuffle this into a nice long sort of snake almost. That's looking good. And then you can just start rolling it up as tightly as possible into a beautiful rose shape. And then wrap that side around. Okay, not bad, not a bad effort. Looks pretty good. I am actually quite pleased with that. That looks great. Okay, time to serve up. And there you go, just finish that with a wedge of lime, and you've got a delicious lunch or dinner. Wow, that tofu is next level. Let's give the corn a try. So good. Beautifully sweet, sticky, and sort of charred around the outside, almost like it's been on the barbecue. That tofu is smoky, slightly spicy, and then you've got all those lovely fragrant spices and the oregano coming through. Really, really good. Perfect for a bowl like this, or you can put it in burritos, fajitas, tacos, anything like that. This recipe is the one to use. And I love using that slicing technique. It adds so much texture to the tofu. You can get it really nice and crispy, but still have a little bit of sort of chew and juiciness in there. Next up, we're making this amazing sesame crusted tofu, and it is so simple, but completely delicious. We're going to start by giving this tofu a quick salty bath. So into the boiling water, I'm adding a good tablespoon of salt. Also going to add in some dark soy. This is going to make the tofu really nice and bouncy and firm, but also season it from within. And for the tofu, I'm using firm tofu this time, rather than extra firm. I want it to have more of a sort of soft and pillowy texture in the center, and then it's going to have that lovely sesame crust around it. So I'm just going to dice this into cubes, then add that into the salty water, and we'll let that simmer for around 5 minutes. Meanwhile, we'll get the sesame crust ready. Once your tofu has been simmering for at least 5 minutes, or even up to 10 minutes, we're just going to strain it off. And you can keep that stock for a really nice ramen. It will be quite salty, so you might want to dilute it if you do use it. And just leave that to steam dry for a few minutes. Now the key to this sesame crust is to grind up your sesame seeds in a pestle and mortar. This is going to release their flavor, but also help them stick to the tofu. So we're not going to be doing any bashing, or else they're just going to go everywhere. Instead, we're going to do muddling, which is where you just rotate the pestle around the mortar, putting pressure down onto the sesame seeds. And this is going to grind them up. You could also do this in a coffee grinder, a food processor, a blender. Just be careful not to turn them into a powder. We do want some texture in there. You could use toasted, but since the tofu is going to be fried in the air fryer, the sesame seeds will get some color on them. And this is the sort of consistency we're looking for. It almost looks like ground almonds. And to the sesame seeds, we're going to add some arrowroot powder. This is going to help get the tofu lovely and crispy. When baking or air frying tofu, I always use arrowroot powder. It doesn't go as chalky as cornflour, I find. I'm also going to add a touch of Chinese 5-spice, make it lovely and fragrant, and some ground white pepper. It's a bit more punchy and vibrant compared to black pepper, not quite as fruity, I'd say. So just stir through those seasonings and the arrowroot powder. Okay, the tofu is now cooled down more or less, so I'm going to add it into a medium bowl. And we're going to add in some sesame oil to help the seasoning mix stick to the tofu. And just give that a little mix around gently, get the tofu nice and coated. You can then sprinkle in the sesame seed mix. I'm not sure I'm going to use all of this actually, so I'll just add half to start off with. And then I'll just mix that tofu through, get it lovely and coated. Gently toss it. Okay, I think we can add a little bit more. Actually, we'll just add all of it, I think. So once your tofu is done, it will look like this. Nice and coated in those sesame seeds, ready to be cooked. And I'm just going to add this into my air fryer. This tofu does bake really well if you would prefer to. And then just space the tofu out so there's a little gap between each piece so that the hot air can get to the tofu and make it lovely and golden and crispy. And that's ready to be air fried. I will put the full cooking instructions in the written recipe. Crispy and golden and nutty goodness is how I would describe this tofu. And I'm serving it with a quick dip that I made, which is just sweet chili sauce, lime, and fresh coriander. Now I am a bit hopeless with chopsticks, but I'll try my best. Give that a nice dip. Oh, we've lost it. Oh no! Really good. That's a winner, that is. It's crunchy, it's nutty, it's got a nice pillowy texture in the middle, and then it just goes perfectly with that sweet chili and lime sauce. I like to enjoy it as a little high protein snack like this, but it would also be great with some jasmine rice and some stir-fried greens, or on top of a ramen bowl, something like that would be really tasty. For our final recipe, we'll be making aromatic and smoky tandoori tofu. The base of this tandoori marinade is just going to be a plain yogurt. This is a soy-based one. You could use an oat-based one. Then we're going to add in some ginger. Easiest way to peel ginger is just with a spoon. Best way of getting the peel off without taking too much of the flesh. If I'm cooking this ginger into a stew that's been cooked for quite a while, then I tend not to worry about peeling it. But this tofu's only been cooked for, say, 15 minutes at max. So just get yourself a zester and zest your ginger. You could mince this with a knife, but it is a lot quicker just to zest it in. And then while you've got the zester out, we're going to zest in a couple cloves of garlic as well. Next to go in is some garam masala. This is a really lovely fragrant spice mix. And then I like to add some extra cumin and some extra ground coriander. Also adding in some turmeric for that lovely golden color. Now what gives tandoori marinade that amazing red color is Kashmiri chili. I have only got Kashmiri chili flakes at the moment, so I'm just going to grind some up in a pestle and mortar. Kashmiri chili isn't as spicy as most chilies, but it does have an amazing flavor. It's sort of mild, fruity, slightly smoky. It's really lovely. So I'm just going to grind up these chili flakes. Tea towel underneath your pestle and mortar. That can help prevent any damage to your chopping board or kitchen worktop. And then because that Kashmiri chili isn't quite as red, I'm going to add in some paprika. And then we'll go in with about a tablespoon of lemon juice and a good grating of black pepper. And that's the marinade done. Just give it a good whisk, get everything well combined. Also go in with a good pinch of salt. Some restaurants actually use red food dye to give it that vibrant color. But traditionally it is just Kashmiri chili powder that gives it that color. And then we're going back to the extra firm tofu for this recipe and just tearing nice, fairly large chunks into the marinade. About this sort of size. And then with your hands or a spoon, just get that tofu coated in the marinade. Poppy looks like she's wanting a bit of tandoori tofu. And then leave that to marinate overnight, or even just 30 minutes is better than nothing. Okay, so I've just preheated my air fryer and added in a little bit of rapeseed oil. And we're going to add in our tofu. Get all the marinade in there as well. And then off to the side, I'm going to add in some red pepper and onion as well. And then we'll grill this into it's lovely and juicy and charred, probably around 12 to 15 minutes, and I'll turn it halfway through as well. I'm going to serve this tandoori tofu with some lovely naan bread. The tofu is beautifully golden now, but still nice and juicy on the center, in the center. And we've got those roast vegetables to add a little sort of juiciness to and flavor. I've got some raita here to go alongside, and just some fresh tomato as well, and some fresh coriander if you're a fan. And there is your really easy, smoky, spicy and fragrant tandoori tofu. Great to have marinating in the fridge for when you need a quick dinner. Let's tuck in. Whew, it is getting really hot in this kitchen. Let's give this a try. So good. Hotter than expected, actually. It's spicy, it's smoky, you get hit by that garlic and ginger, and then in the background you've got all those lovely aromatic spices. The roasted onion and pepper adds a lovely sort of sweetness and juiciness to the dish. This is just great to have marinating in the fridge, ready for when you need a quick dinner. Thank you for watching. For some more plant-based cooking inspiration, check out this video.